My name's Daniel, Dan to most folks, and I'm 36 years old. I'm sitting here at 2 a.m. with a cold beer in my hand, staring at the cracked plaster on the ceiling of my new apartment, wondering how my life turned into a train wreck in less than a week. 3 days ago, I was grilling burgers in my backyard for my wife's family, laughing like everything was fine. Now, I'm alone, sipping Bud Light, and spilling my guts to you strangers online because I don't know where else to put this mess. I ain't the type to vent on the internet, never have been, but when your whole world flips upside down, sometimes you just need to let it out. Let me back up and give you the rundown. I run a landscaping business, Green Patch Landscaping, my pride and joy. Started it with nothing but a rusty lawnmower and a dream after I ditched trade school 15 years ago. Now I've got 3 crews, a decent fleet of trucks, and enough clients to keep the lights on and then some. It ain't a fortune, but it's mine, built with my own sweat and a whole lot of early mornings. My wife, Laura, she's 33, and we've been hitched for 8 years. She's a graphic designer, freelancing mostly, and I've been the one keeping us afloat while she built her portfolio. Her family's the fancy type. Her dad, Richard, is some big shot insurance guy. Her mom, Diane, sells high-end houses, and her sister, Claire, thinks her marketing degree makes her a genius. They've always looked at me like I'm some dirt under the nails nobody who got lucky snagging their daughter. Last Sunday was our big yearly barbecue at our place, a tradition Laura loved, 'cause it let her show off our house to her folks. I'd been up since dawn, mowing the lawn, setting up the grill, and making sure the patio looked sharp. Laura was on edge all morning, barking at me for dumb stuff like leaving the cooler lid open, but I figured it was just nerves about her family coming over. By 3 p.m., they all rolled in, Richard with his usual know-it-all grin, Diane with a bottle of wine too fancy for my taste, Claire with her husband, Greg, and Laura's younger brother, Ethan, who's still in college and thinks I'm a caveman. 'Cause I don't have a diploma. Dinner was going smooth enough. I'd smoked ribs all day, laid out the picnic table with paper plates, nothing fancy, just good eating. But we ran short on chairs, so I ducked into the shed out back to grab a couple extras. That's when I heard it, Laura and Claire talking near the rose bushes I'd planted last spring. I was about to holler for them to come eat when Claire's voice stopped me cold. "I still can't believe you're stuck with this guy," she said, real quiet-like. "Mom's right. You need to dump him before you're tied down with kids. He's holding you back." My gut twisted, but Laura's reply hit me like a brick to the face. "I'm on it," she said. "Cool as you please. My accountant says I can claim half his company when I file. We're just waiting for the right moment." I stood there, hands on the shed door, feeling like the ground dropped out from under me. They kept talking, something about a guy named Marcus being a better match, how I was just a phase she'd outgrown. 8 years of marriage flashed through my head, the late nights I worked to pay our rent when she was starting out, the weekends I spent fixing up our house so she'd be proud of it, the dreams we'd talked about over cheap pizza. All of it turned to dust right there in the shed. They laughed like it was some big joke, and I felt my chest go hollow. I don't know how I did it, but I grabbed those chairs, took a deep breath, and walked back to the table with a grin plastered on my face. Inside, I was a mess, like a storm tearing through a trailer park, but outside, I was Dan, the happy husband, passing out ribs and cracking jokes. Laura smiled at me across the table, and I wondered if I'd ever really known her. Richard went on about some golf game. Diane picked at the food like it wasn't good enough, and Claire smirked every time I opened my mouth. Ethan just scrolled his phone, oblivious. I kept it together, pouring beer, nodding along, but my mind was racing. That night, after they left, Laura went to bed humming some tune, acting like nothing was wrong. I stayed up, pretending to clean the grill, but really, I was digging. Her laptop was on the kitchen counter, usually open, but now it had a password. Took me 4 tries, but I guessed it, her old college nickname and our anniversary. What I found made my beer turn sour. Emails to an accountant, starting 2 months back, plotting how to value my business for a divorce. Text with this Marcus guy, going back 5 months, flirty stuff, plans to meet up, talk about, when it's all over. And a bank statement showing she'd siphoned $15,000 from our joint account into one I didn't know about. Smart, small transfers, nothing I'd notice unless I looked hard. I didn't sleep that night. By Monday, I was at a lawyer's office, guy named Tom, recommended by my buddy Jake. Tom laid it out. In our state, Laura could try for half my business since it grew while we were married, even though she never touched a mower or hauled a bag of mulch. When he told me what I could lose, I felt sick, like everything I'd busted my ass for could just get handed over. I asked Tom, "So I just roll over and let her take it?" He talked about settlements, keeping it civil, but I was already checked out. Something in me shifted, like when you hit a rock with the mower blade and know it's time to sharpen it. That week, Laura played the perfect wife, made me coffee, asked how my day was, even kissed me goodnight. I played along too, smiling, saying I loved her, while inside I was building a wall. She didn't know I'd seen her game. Didn't know I was already planning mine. See, her family always thought I was some dumb hick who got lucky. They didn't get that running a business takes smarts, planning, timing, grit. Laura wanted to play dirty? Fine. I'd been growing lawns for 15 years. I knew how to dig deep and pull roots. So here I am, Dan, 36 years old, sitting on a beat-up couch in my buddy Jake's garage, nursing my second beer of the night, while the world I thought I knew crumbles like dry dirt in my hands. It's Tuesday now, 2 days after that barbecue turned my life into a bad country song. I ain't slept much since I overheard Laura and her sister Claire plotting to carve me up like one of those ribs I smoked. My head's spinning, but not from the Bud Light. It's from the realization that 8 years with my wife might have been a lie I was too dumb to see. After I found those emails and texts Sunday night, I couldn't just sit there like some kicked dog. Monday morning, I called in sick to work, first time in forever, and hauled myself to Tom, my lawyer, down at his little office by the hardware store. He's a no-nonsense guy, wears plaid shirts like me, but he's got a law degree and a knack for cutting through crap. I spilled it all. Laura's plan to take half my landscaping business, the secret account with $15,000 of my money, the text with this Marcus creep. Tom leaned back in his chair, chewing on a pen, and said, "Dan, this ain't good. State laws here say she could argue for half of Green Patch's value since you built it up during the marriage. Don't matter she didn't lift a finger. Courts see it as joint effort unless you prove otherwise." I stared at him, feeling my stomach drop. Half my business? I started with a $200 mower I bought off Craigslist, Tom. She was doodling logos in her pajamas while I was breaking my back. "How's that joint?" He shrugged, real calm-like. "That's the law, man. But we can fight it. Show she didn't contribute. Dig up what she's been hiding. You got proof." I showed him the screenshots I'd snapped on my phone, emails, texts, bank transfers. He nodded, scribbling notes. "This helps. She's playing dirty, but we can play smarter. First thing, secure your assets." That word, assets, stuck with me. My business, my trucks, my crews, the house I'd patched up with my own hands. It wasn't just money to me. It was my life. And Laura was ready to snatch it like a hawk on a field mouse. I left Tom's office with a to-do list and a fire in my gut I hadn't felt since I landed my first big client. Step 1, protect Green Patch. Step 2, figure out who this Marcus guy was. Step 3, don't let Laura know I'm onto her till I'm ready to drop the hammer. Back home that afternoon, Laura was at her desk, headphones on, pretending to work on some design project. She'd been twitchy since Sunday, checking her phone every 5 minutes, closing her laptop whenever I walked by, taking calls out on the porch with the door shut. 8 years together, you pick up on stuff, like how I can tell a lawn's got grubs just by the way it feels underfoot. This wasn't her usual, "Dan, you left the fridge open again," annoyed. This was sneaky, like she was hiding a snake in the grass. I played dumb though. "Hey babe, how's the project going?" I asked, leaning in the doorway with a fake grin. She jumped a little, pulled off her headphones, and gave me that tight smile I was starting to hate. "Oh fine, just a tight deadline. You know how clients are." Her phone buzzed on the desk, and I saw M flash on the screen before she flipped it over. "Who's that?" I said, keeping my voice light, like I didn't care. "Just a client," she muttered, eyes darting away. "They're needy today." I nodded, grabbed a soda from the fridge, and let it drop. But inside, I was boiling. That night, I waited till she was asleep, snoring soft like she didn't have a care in the world, and dug deeper. Her phone was locked now, new password, but I'd seen her type it once last week when she thought I was watching TV. Took me 3 tries, her mom's birthday, and our dog's name, but I got in. The texts with Marcus were a gut punch. "Can't wait till this is over," she'd written a week ago. "You're so much better for me than he ever was." His reply, "Soon, babe. We'll have it all. Your half of his cash and a clean start." There were pics too, her in a dress I didn't recognize, him with some slick haircut, smirking at the camera. I wanted to smash the phone, but I took pictures with my own instead. Evidence, like Tom said. Next morning, I hit the bank. Our joint account was down $15,000, like I'd seen, but I found something worse. She'd applied for a loan against our house, $150,000, using my name since I'd put down the cash for it before we got married. I'd renovated every inch of that place. New roof, deck, the works. Adding value she was now trying to cash out. The bank lady, Karen, knew me from Little League days. She looked worried when I asked about it. "Dan, she started this last month. Said it was for a joint project. You didn't sign yet, but it's close to going through." I told her to freeze it, showed my ID, proved it was my house first. Then I moved half our savings, $10,000 I'd earned, to my personal account. Fair's fair, right? By noon, I was at the coffee shop with my accountant, Pete. He's a wiry guy, always smells like cigarettes, but he's sharp. I told him everything, showed him the paper trail Laura was building. "She's been asking me weird stuff," Pete admitted, scratching his beard. "Wanted to know how we track your income, what the business is worth. Said it was for tax planning." I didn't buy it, felt off. He pulled up my books on his laptop, and we found it. Small gaps she'd nudged into the records over months. Nothing illegal, just sloppy enough to make me look bad in court, like I was hiding cash. Pete and I spent hours fixing it, cleaning up invoices, logging every dime. "She's setting you up, Dan," he said. "But we're setting her straight." That night, Laura came home with takeout, acting sweet as pie. "Thought you could use a break," she said, handing me a burger. I smiled, thanked her, watched her scroll her phone while we ate. She didn't know I'd spent the day pulling my life out of her hands. Didn't know I'd talked to Jake, who'd offered his garage if I needed a crash pad. Didn't know I was done being her fool. See, I've spent years learning how to level ground, plant roots, make things grow. Now I was learning how to uproot something rotten, and I was just getting started. It's Wednesday now, and I'm Dan, still 36, still reeling from the mess my life's become. I'm sitting in my truck outside the hardware store, sipping black coffee from a thermos, watching the sun creep up over the parking lot. 3 days since that barbecue when I heard Laura and Claire plotting to gut me like a fish, and I ain't the same guy I was. Used to be, I'd wake up thinking about which lawns needed mowing or which client needed a new flower bed. Now I'm thinking about betrayal, bank accounts, and how to keep my landscaping business, Green Patch, out of my wife's hands. It's a hell of a shift, let me tell you. Yesterday with Pete, my accountant, lit a fire under me. Those gaps Laura planted in my books, little tricks to make me look shady, weren't just sneaky, they were personal. She knew I trusted her, knew I'd let her peek at the numbers back when we were broke and couldn't afford Pete. Now she was using that against me. But Pete and I fixed it, locked it down tight, and I left that coffee shop feeling like I'd at least won a skirmish. Today, though, I'm stepping it up. I ain't just defending anymore. I'm building something new, a plan to turn her game back on her. First thing this morning, I called my brother-in-law. Well, Laura's brother, Ethan. He's 22, still in college, and the only one in her family who don't treat me like I'm some stray dog they found on the porch. We've always gotten along. Played ball a few times, shared a beer when he'd visit. I texted him, kept it casual. Hey, man, need to grab coffee. Got something to run by you. You free? He hit back quick. Yeah, Dan, how's 10 at the diner? Perfect. I had a hunch Ethan didn't know what Laura and Claire were cooking up, and I needed an inside line. At the diner, Ethan slid into the booth across from me, all lanky and awkward in his hoodie. He ordered a Coke, fidgeted with the straw, and asked, "So, what's up? You look beat." Dude. I leaned forward, kept my voice low. Ethan, I'm gonna level with you. Something's off with Laura. She's been weird secretive. You notice anything? His eyes widened, then he looked down at the table. I don't know, man. She's been kinda distant, but I figured it was work stress. Why? What's going on? I took a breath, decided to test the waters. Heard her talking with Claire at the barbecue. Sounded like she's planning something big, maybe leaving me. You hear anything like that? He froze, straw halfway to his mouth, then shook his head slow. No way, Dan. I mean, Claire's always been a jerk about you, but Laura? She wouldn't, he trailed off, doubt creeping into his voice. Then he squinted at me. Wait, you're serious? What did she say? I didn't give him the full tape, didn't want him running to Laura, but I dropped enough. Said she's done with me, something about taking half my business. Mentioned a guy named Marcus. Ring any bells? Ethan's face went pale. Marcus? Like, Marcus Tate? Old college buddy of Claire's? He's been around a couple times, family stuff you skipped for work. I thought he was just a friend. That hit me like a shovel to the chest. Marcus wasn't some random fling, he was tied in deep, part of their world. I pressed Ethan. You sure? 'Cause Laura's been texting him nonstop, and it ain't friendly chit-chat. He rubbed his neck, looking sick. Man, I don't know. I caught them laughing weird at Mom and Dad's lake house last summer. You were on that big sod job. I thought it was nothing. But if she's pulling this? I'm sorry, Dan. I didn't know. I believed him, kid's too honest to lie good. I clapped his shoulder. Ain't your fault. Just keep this between us, all right? I need time to figure it out. He nodded, still rattled, and I left the diner with a name and a lead. Next stop was my shop. I called Jake, my best friend and part-time mechanic for my trucks. He's a big guy, beard like a bear, and loyal as they come. I laid it all out, Laura's plan, the money, Marcus. Jake cussed a blue streak, then said, Dan, we gotta lock this down. Your business is your baby, she don't get a piece. We spent the afternoon moving stuff, transferred 2 trucks and a trailer into his name, temporary like, with a handshake deal to switch him back later. Ain't exactly legal gray, but it'd make her accountant squint hard to find him. Then I pulled my best clients aside, told him I was restructuring, asked him to pay invoices direct to a new account I'd opened solo. They trusted me, years of good work'll do that, and by dusk, Green Patch was looking leaner on paper than it really was. That night, Laura was home late, claiming a client meeting. She walked in smelling like perfume I didn't buy her, gave me a quick peck, and said, long day. How was yours? I grinned. Easy as pie. Busy. Had a truck break down, Jake's fixing it. Might need to shuffle some cash around. Her eyes flicked up, sharp for a second, then softened. Oh, hope it's not too bad. Let me know if I can help. Help? Right. I nodded, watched her grab a glass of wine and settle on the couch, phone in hand. I heard it buzz, saw her smirk before she typed back. Marcus, I bet my last dollar. Later, when she was in the shower, I planted a little seed. Left a bank statement, fake one I'd mocked up, on the kitchen counter, showing my solo account with just $2,000 in it, like I was strapped. She'd see it, think I was clueless and broke, maybe get cocky. Then I slipped out to the porch, called Tom. Found out Marcus is an old college pal of her sister's, I said. Been in the picture a while. And she's moving fast, loans off, but she's still siphoning cash. Tom whistled. Good work, Dan. Keep her guessing. I'll draft papers, quiet divorce, protect your business. You ready to pull the trigger? I stared at the stars, thought about 8 years of mowing lawns for her dreams. Yeah, I said, but I want her to feel it first. See, I've learned a thing or two cutting grass and shaping yards. You don't yank weeds out half-assed, you get the roots, or they grow back meaner. Laura thought she had me pegged, but I was digging in, setting my trap. She'd see soon enough, this landscaper's got thorns. I'm Dan, still 36, and it's Thursday morning now. I'm parked in my truck outside my shop, watching my crew load up mowers while I sip coffee that's gone cold. For days since that barbecue flipped my life upside down, and I'm running on fumes, anger, mostly, with a dash of stubborn grit. Laura's out there thinking she's got me cornered, plotting with her sister Claire and this Marcus guy to take half my landscaping business, green patch, and leave me in the dust. But I ain't the pushover she thinks. I've been moving pieces, tightening screws, and today's about making sure she don't see me coming. Yesterday with Ethan, her kid brother, gave me a name, Marcus Tate, and a hunch he's been in the picture longer than I thought. That lake house moment he mentioned? I was laying sod for a strip mall that weekend, sweating through 90-degree heat to keep us afloat while Laura was giggling with some college buddy at her folks' retreat. It stings, picturing it, but it's fuel too. After locking down my trucks with Jake and shuffling cash with Pete, I'm feeling like I've got a fighting chance. Today, though, I'm turning up the heat. First thing, I hit the shop and called my insurance guy, Bill. He's been with me since I scratched green patch together, knows my business like his own backyard. Bill, I said, pacing the gravel lot, I need a favor. Can you run a check on Laura? She's been nosing around my policies, might be trying to cash in. He grunted, promised to dig, and called back an hour later. Dan, she asked about your business liability last week. Wanted to know the payout if something tanked. Said it was for planning. I stalled her, but she's fishing. I thanked him, told him to keep her locked out. Another hook she'd miss. Next, I swung by the house while Laura was out working. Planted a cheap recorder, legal in my state. My name's on the deed, under the couch cushion where she likes to sit. Then I set up a little camera in the garage, angled at her car. She'd been taking errands lately, coming back with no bags and vague excuses. I wanted proof. When I checked her desk, I found a notebook, new, locked with a tiny clasp. I jimmied it open with a screwdriver, and there it was, timelines, dollar amounts, notes about MT, and post-filing assets. She'd even jotted down my crew schedules, like she was timing when I'd be too busy to notice her sneaking around. I snapped pics, locked it back, left it where it was. That afternoon, I met Jake for lunch at the burger joint by the highway. He slid me a greasy bag of fries and said, Dan, you're scaring me, man. You're like a damn general planning a war. I laughed, first time in days. And a war yet, Jake? Just landscaping, clearing the weeds. I told him about Ethan, the notebook, the insurance dodge. He shook his head. She's ruthless, dude. What's next? I leaned in. Next, I bait her. Make her think I'm cracking, then spring the trap. I'm hosting a dinner tomorrow, her whole family. Gonna lay it all out. Jake grinned. You're nuts. I'm in. Need a wingman. I nodded. Just keep the truck running. That night, Laura came home jittery, phone glued to her hand. I played my part, dumb, tired Dan, rough day, I said, slumping on the couch. Might lose a big client. Could use your advice. Her eyes lit up, greedy-like. Oh, honey, that's awful. Tell me more. I fed her a story, half-truths about a contract going south, cash flow tight. She nodded, typing fast on her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. Later, I checked the recorder while she slept. Caught her on a call. He's slipping, Marcus. Tomorrow's perfect, family'll push him over the edge. We're close. Her voice was soft, excited, like she was planning a damn party. Friday morning, I set the stage. Told Laura I needed her family over for an emergency dinner to talk business trouble. I'm scared, babe, I said, letting my voice shake just enough. Your dad's smart with money, Claire too. Can you call him? She hesitated, then smiled, too sweet. Of course, Dan. We'll figure it out together. She texted them while I watched, then hugged me like some saint. I hugged back, feeling nothing but cold steel inside. By noon, I'd prepped the house, grill ready, table set, evidence stacked in a folder by my chair. Jake swung by with a six-pack and a nod. Ready, General? I smirked. Born ready. See, I've spent years learning patience, waiting for grass to grow, rain to pass, roots to settle. Laura thought she could rush me out of my own life, but she didn't know I'd been tending this ground a long time. Tomorrow night, her family'd walk in thinking they're kings. They'd leave knowing the lawn guy cuts deeper than they ever could. It's Friday night now, and I'm Dan, standing in my backyard with a spatula in hand, flipping burgers like it's just another cookout. The air smells like charcoal and betrayal, and I'm about to serve up more than food. Laura's family's here, Richard, Diane, Claire and Greg, Ethan, all gathered around the picnic table, sipping beers and acting like they own the place. Jake's in the corner, nursing a bottle, my silent backup. 5 days ago, I overheard Laura and Claire scheming to take half my landscaping business and ditch me for Marcus Tate. Tonight, I'm flipping the script. Laura's buzzing around, playing perfect wife, refilling drinks, laughing too loud. She thinks this emergency dinner is her chance to watch me squirm, to push me into some corner where her folks can save me and she can cash out. She don't know I've got a folder full of truth sitting by my plate, or that I've been recording her every move. The table's set with paper plates, same as last week, but this time I ain't the fool at the head of it. Richard kicks things off, leaning back with that smug grin. So, Dan, Laura says you've got a business crisis. What's the mess this time? His tone's all pity, like he's waiting for me to admit I'm drowning. Diane chimes in, landscaping's so unpredictable, maybe it's time for a real career. Claire smirks, sipping her wine, while Greg nods like a bobblehead. Ethan just watches, quiet, probably still chewing on what I told him yesterday. I take a swig of beer, stand up slow, and raise my bottle. Before we dig in, a toast to family, to trust, and to knowing who's got your back. They clink, confused, and I sit, flipping open my folder. About that crisis, I say, voice steady. Ain't my business that's in trouble, it's my marriage. Laura's hand freezes on her glass. I plug my phone into the Bluetooth speaker on the table, hit play. Her voice fills the yard, her and Claire from last Sunday. I'm on it. My accountant says I can claim half his company when I file. Gasps ripple around. Richard's face goes red. Diane clutches her necklace. Ethan stares at his sister like she's a stranger. I don't stop, pull up pics of her text with Marcus on my phone, pass it around. 5 months with this guy, I say, while I'm mowing lawns to pay our bills. Laura jumps up, voice shrill. Dan, stop. This isn't what it looks like. I cut her off, sliding the notebook across the table. Found this too? Your plan, timelines, my crew schedules. Real thorough. Richard slams his fist down. This is nonsense. You're twisting things. I look him dead in the eye. Am I? What about the $15,000 she took from our account? Or the loan she tried on my house? I show the bank docs, let him sink in. Claire tries to bolt, but Greg grabs her arm, glaring. You in on this, Claire? Laura's crying now, big fake tears. I was unhappy, Dan. We've been drifting. You work too much. I laugh, bitter. Drifting? I work to build us a life. You build a scam. Diane's whispering to Richard, who's yelling about lawyers and defamation. I drop the last bomb. Oh, Marcus? Talked to his girlfriend, Lisa, yesterday. Showed her the texts. She dumped him this morning, guess he's free now. Laura. Her face crumples, and the table erupts, Richard lunging at me, Ethan pulling him back, Claire screaming at Laura. I stand there, calm as a summer day, watching it burn. Jake steps up, hand on my shoulder. Time to go, man. I nod, grab my folder, and head for the gate. Laura runs after me, grabbing my arm. Dan, please, let's talk. I shake her off. Talk to my lawyer, Laura. I'm done. Richard's shouting threats as I climb in Jake's truck, but I don't look back. That night, at Jake's place, I sleep hard, first time in days. The trap sprung, and I'm still standing. It's Saturday, and I'm Dan, crashed on Jake's couch with my dog, Rusty, snoring beside me. The sun's barely up, but I'm awake, staring at the ceiling fan, feeling lighter than I have all week. 6 days since I caught Laura's betrayal at that barbecue, and last night's dinner flipped the table, literally and figuratively. Her family's probably still picking burger bits out of the grass, and I'm here, sipping coffee Jake brewed, figuring out what's next. I ain't won yet. Divorce is a long haul, but I've got my feet under me now. My phone's buzzing nonstop, 33 texts from Laura since I left. Started angry, how dare you ruin my life? Then pleading, Dan, I'm sorry, let's fix this. Last one, at 2 a.m., Marcus is gone. I'm alone, please call. I don't reply, ain't got the energy. Jake stumbles in, hands me a mug. You're a legend, man. That dinner? Like a damn movie. I shrug. Just wanted the truth out. Now I gotta rebuild. He nods. Start with the house, get your stuff before she trashes it. Mid-morning, I head back with Jake and Rusty. Laura's car's gone, probably at her folks, so we load my truck fast. Clothes, tools, Rusty's bed, a box of old photos. I leave the key on the counter, lock the door behind me. The place feels like a ghost town, 8 years of memories, half of them fake now. Back at Jake's, I unpack slow, letting Rusty sniff around. My phone rings, Tom, my lawyer. Laura's folks called my office, threatening suits. Don't worry, I've got the evidence filed. She's got no leg to stand on. I exhale. Good. What's my damage? He pauses. She'll push for half green patch, but we'll fight it. You've got a shot to keep most. That afternoon, Ethan texts, moved out of mom and dad's. Laura's a wreck. They're blaming you. I'm sorry, man. I reply, you're good, Ethan. Take care. Kid's caught in the crossfire, but he's got a heart, unlike the rest. Later, I meet Lisa, Marcus's ex, at a diner. She's tough, tattooed, pissed. He's a leech, she says, sliding me a USB. Found his emails, him and Laura planned this for months. Use it. I thank her, feeling a weird bond, two suckers who got played. By night, I'm at my new spot, a rented trailer near the shop. It's small, smells like pine and motor oil, but it's mine. I cook eggs on a hot plate, toss Rusty a scrap, and crack a beer. The quiet's nice, no lies humming in the background. Laura thought she'd break me, but I'm still here, roots deep, ready to grow something new. It's Sunday, a week since the barbecue that tore my life apart, and I'm Dan, sitting on a folding chair outside my trailer, watching Rusty chase a squirrel. The morning's crisp, sky clear, and I've got a thermos of coffee warming my hands. I'm 36, starting over, but I ain't mad anymore, just tired, and maybe a little hopeful. Laura's out of my life, her family scrambling, and Green Patch is still mine, at least for now. I've lost 8 years, but I've gained something too: truth, and a clean slate. My phone's quiet today. Laura's text stopped at 41 last night. Last one begging for one more talk. I blocked her, sent her a note through Tom. Divorce papers are coming. Deal with my lawyer. She'll fight, her dad'll throw money at it. But I've got Lisa's USB, my records, and a crew that'd back me in a heartbeat. Tom says we'll settle quick if she's smart, half the house, none of my business. I can live with that. Midday, Jake swings by with burgers. Heard from Ethan, he says, tossing Rusty a fry. Laura's holed up at her parents', crying to anyone who'll listen. Richard's calling you a thug, might sue for emotional distress. I laugh. Let him try. I've got the tapes. We eat, talk shop, plan a fishing trip. It's simple, real stuff I'd forgotten with Laura's drama clogging my days. Later, I call my crew. Tell them I'm back full-time tomorrow. They cheer, loyal as ever. Afternoon, I hike with Rusty to a creek near the trailer. The water's cold, clear, and I sit on a rock, thinking. 8 years ago, I was a kid with a mower and a dream. Built a life, lost it to a lie, but I'm still that kid, tougher now, wiser. Laura underestimated me, so I hit with dirty hands. She didn't get that growing things, lawns, businesses, even yourself, takes more than fancy degrees. It takes guts. As the sun dips, I get a text from Lisa, divorce filed on Marcus. Coffee again sometime? I smile, reply, sure. Bring more dirt if you got it. Not romance, just survivors swapping war stories. Back at the trailer, I unpack the last box, photo of me and Rusty from last summer, grinning by the truck. I set it on a crate, crack a beer, and watch the stars. Laura's world's crumbling, but mine's just beginning. Like after a hard frost, you clear the dead stuff, plant fresh, and wait for spring. I'm ready to grow again.